Hello, everyone. Welcome to a live Q&A with Senior Kabbalah Instructor Tony Kosenic. Thank you so much for hanging in there for a few minutes. We had just a few minor technological challenges, but we're here now and very happy that you joined us today. The audience for this Q&A is typically a combination of students who are already studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, and also first-time viewers, maybe second or third-time viewers who are still curious about Kabbalah and have questions. Whatever the case, we encourage you to ask your questions by posting them in the chats. Also, if you want to share where you're viewing from today, you can post those in the chat as well, and I'll share those a little bit later. We do have simultaneous translation for English-speaking viewers. So when English-speaking viewers ask questions, then I'll make note of those as well. Again, welcome. We're happy that you're here, and thank you again for waiting us to start the broadcast. Tony, very happy to be with you as well. It's always great to see you and be together.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you very much, and I hope your arm gets better soon. You shocked me when you held that up when we were getting ready. Holy mackerel. Thanks,
I appreciate it. I feel better already being here with you and all the viewers and the team. Thank you.
Good. Oh, by the way, the simultaneous translation is for Spanish speakers. Your arm said English speakers.
Oh my. I need to feel a lot better. Thank you for the correction.
Okay. Yeah. Why are people curious about Kabbalah? If you're already a student, you're beyond the curious stage. But what is it in the first place that brought you to want to study and learn? So this is especially for those people who are drawn in some way. Curious is a light word to use for the process that's actually occurring when you tune into this. Why you're tuning into it is because it's all part of a system, a mechanism that guides nature. You know, if you garden, then you know that perhaps you want a particular fruit. You get a seed for that fruit. You plant it with the intention that that fruit will, from that seed, a whole plant will grow, a whole complex system will grow, and you will care for it, placing it first in the right soil that has the right minerals that it needs, watering it, and other forces will be working on it, forces from the weather, forces of electromagnetism, heat from the sun and from the body of the earth. And all of that will work together to take the intention of the gardener and the action of the planting of the seed to bring it to the point where it becomes a complete, ripe, beautiful, sweet fruit. That system is also happening on the macro level of nature. There's a gardener, there is an intention, and there's a seed. And this seed is in our hearts. It's part of the intention of that original force, that gardener. And the whole point of our existence, our consciousness, is to go through a process like that seed to come to absolute and complete fulfillment, to fulfill the wish of the gardener, but also to become the most beautiful, sweet, luscious fruit that is to be completely fulfilled. And this is happening not on the physical level, but on the meta level, on the level of intentions, on the forces that really guide everything in reality. It's taking our disconnection from that, our inability to sense any of that, and to bring us through a process where, unlike a seed, it becomes conscious. we become engaged in a desire for this process and for this complete fulfillment, which is very different in the end than it appears to us at the beginning. This process of conscious development is simply what the path of Kabbalah is. It is a spiritual methodology that allows a person to go through the process and purpose for which we were placed here and to fulfill it. And from the moment that we're born, we have this seed in us. Either it's dormant or it becomes awakened. And as soon as it does, then we start looking. We start looking for the meaning of our lives, how to fulfill our purpose, and looking deeper into purpose than just, what am I going to do for a living? And deeper into the path than just a buffet of random mystical ideas, but looking for where is this in actuality, in a place that is, let's say, natural, and how can I get to it? And this is, that point in the heart is attracted eventually to Kabbalah, because Kabbalah is that system that exists in nature, and it allows us to engage with it consciously. So, Mary, let's get to our first question. Anything you want to know?
Okay, well, related to the seed and this process of growth, there's a question. How do the 7 principles of natural law fit into Kabbalah?
Well, I don't know what those 7 principles are, because it's not part of the spiritual methodology. And so I can't really answer that question. It comes from some system, which I would probably categorize as part of that buffet of mystical ideas. Can't address it, sorry.
Okay, next question. Hi, Tony. Hi, Mary. Will we know if we have a Kli? Does the Kli start with the real capability to bestow, or does it start with more, wording is nasty, corporeal desires?
A Kli is a need. It's a deficiency. It's a hunger. So whatever we feel that we are lacking, according to our highest ideal, is already a Kli. It's not, bestowal is not a need that I want to fulfill for myself. Bestowal is the need to fulfill the spiritual fulfillment and awakening of others, the completion of the whole of creation and all other people. This takes a very long time to be able to develop the need to have that need. And that's what the whole methodology is about. Of course, everybody has desires. We are nothing but a desire. And we do nothing but receive from the greater system. And that's what the word Kabbalah means. It means receive or reception. But there's something else implied in it. It's to receive in order to be able to give, to receive in order to attain a higher state, which is a greater and greater connection with the force that's actually guiding the whole system. So you do have a Kli, you do have a vessel initially, but we're using it for a different purpose than the one that it will eventually be used for. That's the thing that undergoes the transformation in this methodology.
Thank you, Tony. That question was from HZ, by the way. Next question comes from Sylvie. Hi, Tony and Mary. Do you think that people from all religions can become a Kabbalist?
Yes. Kabbalah is not a religion. It's a science. It's like an exercise routine in a sense. It relates to the person, to their family and their surroundings and their heart and so on. and how to turn that into something aligned with the direction of nature, and along with it, it brings greater and greater awareness. Now, this is not in opposition to traditions, and it's not in opposition to religions, unless the religion has a prejudice against such a thing. But it is, Kabbalah itself is not in opposition to any of those things. Usually a person who takes religion seriously, who in the first place is looking for a connection, a direct connection with the upper force, and to change their own character, to change their created nature from egoism and thinking about themselves only and doing all acts only to really selfishly get what you need in the end. That kind of a change is the change that most religions say that we should achieve, but doesn't tell you how. Doesn't tell you how to do it. Kabbalah is the instruction manual on how to love your friend as yourself. This is the core of certainly of the Western religions, and if you really look at religions, that's what they're all saying, unless they're aimed at the other direction, and such things do exist. Mary?
The next question is asked by Avi. What is the best thing to tell a friend who says that there is nothing outside of us and everything just happens due to people's choices and not due to a creator or outside force?
The creator is inside you. Actually, it's the other way around. We are inside the creator. That doesn't make it an outside force. And by the way, there's nothing to tell that person, because the framework in which the person is making that statement is in the egoistic framework. And as far as reason goes, the egoistic framework is completely reasonable. I mean, it's right. It's right. But the whole point of the process and purpose of our life is to change the place out of which that reason emerges into an opposite kind of quality of wanting to connect and give. That's not within egoistic reason. Everything exists within. In other words, it's about intention. It's not about the physical things that's apparently physical things that seem to occur outside of us that really determine the kind of experience we're having, the amount of pleasure or suffering that the world goes through. There is no inner or outer when it comes to the Creator. There is only connection or turning away from connection, bestowal or reception. And those two things are all within a single person. Mary?
Next question comes from Selah Omar. How do we tame the ego?
You can't tame the ego. The ego is a very committed force. It's there in order to develop you. The point is not to kill it, and you can't tame it, but you can use it for a different purpose. You can make it understand that it's actually pushing you towards this change, and it guides you towards the exact change that has to happen. The response that we have when we should be relating to somebody in love and in openness and giving over hatred, and the heart says, no, I don't want to do that. That's, I'm not going to do that. This person, this, that, or the other thing. This is a point within the heart, a point of correction that we've been guided to by the ego to show us where we are limited, where we can go no further using this type of desire and this type of reasoning and that kind of an intention. So that's it's it's helping us find those points of hatred, and hatred means disconnection, over which we make a bridge of love. But this isn't something that you can just go out and do tomorrow. You're not going to be able to do it. It takes training, and that's why this is a methodology. We have to have completely different targets, things that we may feel in vague ways, but we don't know how to define them well enough because they don't come out of our reason. They come out of an opposite reason of giving. And so it has to be, what those things are need to be shared with you from those who have already attained those levels. And that's what the Kabbalistic texts are about. They explain principles, use terminology that allows us to escape the egoistic definitions that we have and understand better what those targets and forces are, the target that we want to aim our heart and our intention towards. It takes time. It takes having the right texts. And above all, it takes study with other people in an environment whose highest ideal is that. Just like planting the seed in a particularly right soil, in the right conditions and care that happens for it, this study is the place where your point in the heart, your seed, needs to be planted in a place like that so that it holds you, keeps you pointed at the right thing, and gives you the opportunity to experiment with the kinds of connections that you would call higher, godly, of the law of nature. If you're in an environment unlike that, all efforts will be scattered. They'll all be random. Every day will be just, you're picking up from zero again. So that's the long answer to your short question.
Tony, Michael Pressler has a question about relationships. How do you deal with day-to-day people who are not awakened? Even family that cause so much frustration. They are so closed and blind to the light.
Well, you treat them the way you treat anyone who you want to be patient and kind to, and don't try to force the light on them at all. It's not kind to do that. The best way to deal with it is by example. If you are serious and you're working and things are changing in your heart, they're going to see that, they're going to feel it, and only good and light reflected from what you're doing will reflect on them. The way to deal with them is, as a loving person, look at them as your children. How you would forgive, understand, wait. That's how. And don't mix the two up. The place where you're learning and training is in an environment. That's where rapid growth and successful growth happens. And out in the world in general, you are like every other person. It's like you don't get a badge. We are trying to change our nature to align with the higher aspects of life.
Tony, next we have a question from a Spanish-speaking viewer on YouTube. Litzy Ariano Flores. Good afternoon. Why is it considered a science, meaning Kabbalah? Why is it a science, and what method is used to reveal its truth?
It's a science because the places, the qualities that are available to us are described in the books of the Kabbalists, and we're also given a method by which to reproduce the state that they're speaking about. And the method is given by the the instructor, the teacher, the Rav, as he has received from his, teachers, professors, you could call it in academia, and by knowing what the outcome of the change in the heart should be, receiving instructions on how to do the same things that sage did in order to attain that, and doing it with your peers through whom you can check your work. It's like a peer review in a sense. It is the same thing, except it's not objective in that we're looking at something outside of ourselves. This is a science in which the heart of the scientist, his or herself, is the thing that is undergoing all of these changes. Mary.
Litzy has another question, Tony. How does one learn to love one's neighbor from Kabbalah beyond the duty to love others?
Well, the how, you have to study it. I don't quite grasp the question. The how is the method. The whole method and the access to higher states comes through connection with others. We are in a shattered state. We originated in a complete unity, but it was unconscious. And then and then the seed was planted in its beginning growth cycle. What happens to a seed when you plant it? It breaks up, so that the other elements of its new life can enter it, and the potential in its DNA structure can now flourish and become what it is, what it will become. That for us is a cosmos with uncountable multiplicity. We don't feel that unity at all. We don't feel connection to others. We don't want to be with others. We don't understand, don't love, we judge. This is not just, me, it's not just you. That is the nature of what happened to that single unity brought into this second state of development, from the shattering into a reuniting that allows us to re-enter that unity at a much higher and conscious level. That is, to become like the force that created us. And that all happens through love of friends. It all happens, all of that mystical stuff does not involve, it's not mystical. Does not involve meditation, separating yourself from none of that stuff. It's about how to overcome the resistance of my shattered part to identifying with the friend as the self and experiencing it that way. That, as an experience, is way better than the shattered solitary experience. This is where fulfillment and pleasure exists. And it's been built in such a way that through this love and connection to others, overcoming those egoistic barriers, we end up arriving at the love and connection with the force that created us, the Creator. There's no other way to get there. Even if we have some preliminary connection that brings us here, we all feel some connection to the Creator. We now ask that the Creator, ask that force to allow us to feel the love and connection and act that way, be able to actually live that, so that that state is ends up not just being me having a good time, but it raises all of reality back to its root. Okay?
Next, Tony, Virgo 12 is asking, some associate Kabbalah with manipulative dark magic. Some are therefore afraid of it. Why do you suppose that is?
That's because they're misinformed about what it actually is, and that's because it's been hidden. Real Kabbalists have hidden it because there wasn't a real need for it. There wasn't, humanity hadn't developed to the point where it really could make these corrections on a large enough scale that it made sense to teach more than one or two people in a generation. We've changed, we've evolved to the point where great masses of people can readily see and feel what Kabbalah actually is and what it's for. In the past, it like I said, it was hidden, but also completely misrepresented. And if a person did not learn from an actual lineage, then they were just sort of delving into the books, then their ego guided the entire thing. What do you get when your ego guides you? You get the same thing in your spiritual search as you get in your life. A lot of bad stuff. But that has never been what Kabbalah is. It's only what people imagined that it is. And if you are connected to an actual ancient lineage of it, then you can readily see that that isn't what it is, that it's actually the most beautiful, loving heart and the way to achieve that, offered to us by nature.
From a Spanish-speaking viewer, Estrella Diaz Garcia. In the struggle between giving and receiving, we distance ourselves from spirituality with our ego. How can we control it?
You can't control it. You're supposed to go through those changes. Closeness, distance, closeness, distance. Each time we disconnect, what's actually happening is that our vessel, our desire for spirituality becomes larger. What it is that we want becomes clearer and much more embedded into the need, out of the head and into the gut as an actual need. Because once you're engaging with the light and the light is teaching you, it's going to take you to your limitation and then help you to recognize and climb to a greater, wider, more inclusive state the next time you return. Your ego will grow, your need will grow, and the correction that you will undergo will be a bigger correction, freeing you more from the ego and understanding the necessity for this. We develop in a spiral. A spiral starts in the center, and maybe you ascend and you get an awakening of some sort, and then you lose it. Well, then you go much lower than your starting point. It swings down. And as you gather these necessary forces to be overcome in your next state, when it swings back, it swings way up over your original point. So this is the way that nature works with us all the time. But what we generally do when we're not, I don't know what to call it, when we're not on the path, or we're not, the point in the heart is not awakened, we get depressed, we get turned off, we get angry, we separate more than we started. But when you understand that this is actually how nature interacts with us, that this getting and losing, it is the process of climbing. It's there for a purpose. It's not there to frustrate us. It's there to enhance us. It's one of the forces working on the seed. It's the major force working on the seed. Let's talk for a second about an event that's coming up. Some of you who are already studying know about this, and others who aren't don't know about this. And it is it's what we call a retreat. It's an event that takes place in nature, in a place very much like a resort or like a summer camp. But it's a place where we take all of these principles and for 2 or 3 days, we get together and we live these laws and this method like a village. It's like a society in which this happens. So a lot of things that are ideas become very, very clear and practical. You understand. First of all, you're with people who are trying to do what you're trying to do, and everybody wants everybody else to succeed. So it's like a first really practical taste of working in an environment whose only point is the fulfillment of the whole. And you're in a place where you clearly feel why you feel what you feel and what those feelings are for, what to do with them. And during these 3 days, it's called a, wait a minute, let me just turn this thing on for a sec. Right, it's called that's unclear for some reason. It's called the 3-day leap. And it happens on the 5th to the 7th of September. And the topic of this particular retreat is reaching higher states. So the entire 3 days is focused on what you need to know, understand, and exercises and activities and so on that make what one needs to do in order to attain a higher state, makes it clear. We all do it together, have a lot of fun doing it, and it will, for people who don't know anything about Kabbalah, it'll make it very clear what it actually is, and you'll get a direct and immediate benefit from it. And for those of you who are studying and have already been exposed to these spiritual concepts and the targets, it'll make them very clear to you what they actually are and how to use them. Mary?
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, what an amazing environment to be at that event. Tony and I will be there, so be great to see you. Hope you join. Quasi Rhodes has a question related to environment.
Oh, before we go back to that, there's a special deal on now, right? For people who are watching this, right?
Correct, yes. You can get a discount if you go to the link that's provided in your chats, and you will receive a discount using the code KES in capital letters 10Q. You get a 10% discount. It's called an early bird retreat ticket price. So that's a special.
There is the early bird, which is still happening now, right? But this is even on top of that discount.
Oh, very good. This offer for the 10% on top of the early bird discount is good through Tuesday, August 12th. So you have a couple of days to decide. Okay, so.
Wait, I'm going to interrupt you again.
So as many times as you like.
Yeah. What's coming up?
What's coming up? So Quasi Rhodes has a question about environment. Mm-hmm. I'm in an environment where we don't have like minds. So he says, how do we copy? Maybe where do we get the right kind of influence if we're not in an environment where we don't have like minds?
You don't get it. You just don't get it. It is of a certain nature, and that's what it is. The same ideal. I mean, if you're talking about a spiritual environment, let's call it a spiritual environment, then you're only going to find that in places that are built that way. But there are such environments that people do for business and so on, where the ideal is the success of all the people in that group in business, and everybody works not just in their own favor, but to make sure that everybody else has maximum opportunity, maximum information and support. So that's a materialistic type of thing. If you want to be successful in the development that nature wants to put us under, it has to be conscious, and it has to be in an environment aimed at that. So you will find that environment in Kabbalah. That's why we share. That's why we share this. People cannot learn from books, just from books. There's oral instruction. There's like masterclass in the sense of like observing it yourself, seeing how this thing actually works. It really can't be done without that.
Hey, Tony, I'd like to quickly read a list of where viewers are tuning in from today. In case anyone would like to add after I read this list, feel free. We still have time. So we have viewers from Pittsburgh, PA, Sydney, Australia, New Jersey, Netherlands, South Mississippi, Montana, Peru, España, Colombia, El Salvador, Israel, South Africa, Maine, France, Ghana, Ireland, Spain, the UK, San Bernardino, California, Philippines, Mexico, Tennessee, Ontario in Canada, Venezuela, Ecuador, LA, Alabama, Dubai, and Barcelona, Spain. Wow. Thank you so much. Always exciting to read this list and feel where everyone is tuning in to us today. Our next question is from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Juan Manuel Franzia. When practicing altruism, is there a limit with regard to our well-being so that it does not negatively affect our lives?
Well, to be clear, we're not speaking about material altruism. That's something very different. And that has to do with your resources and your energy and all that. What Kabbalah is speaking about is the reason why we do what we do. That's an intention. You can be altruistic physically, and the external act will appear to be altruism, but the internal act will be reception. It will be, I'm doing this for some type of satisfaction for myself. I'm altruistic. There's all kinds of ways that the ego manages the situation. The whole point of the change of our nature is on the level of intention, not on the level of the act. Eventually, if the intention is changed, even if there is the desire for the intention to be different, and we don't really have a very strong desire in that direction, but even if that desire is there to some small degree, then the act is aided. It becomes an act extended from a higher level. Now, if a person is more and more engaged in working on changing the reason why they're doing something, then their actions will become more and more aligned with the will of the upper force and not with the will of the ego. And if that's how a person is working, there is no damage that will come to us from that, because we're not intended to get pleasure in our egoistic vessels. What is being developed is that we get pleasure from the opposite, from what the upper force is like, which is not one of thinking about oneself, what they'll get. It's one of making sure that the entire system, every piece in it, and all of it together receives complete fulfillment. So that's very, very opposite. You're speaking about it on a psychological level, and yes, of course, you can damage yourself by giving away things that you need for your survival or being taken advantage. That's not at all the kind of action that Kabbalah is speaking about.
Marie Aquino has a question about the retreat, Tony. My name is Marie from Florida. My question is, can a friend that is not enrolled in KabU classes attend the retreat?
Yes, if they really want to. We try to make it accessible for anybody at any level, but we need to know We need to know so that we can support you in the ways that you need.
Next, from a Spanish-speaking viewer, if the texts of the Torah are a code for spirituality and not the textual history of the people of Israel, how do we justify the tombs of the patriarchs and the historical sites that exist?
These levels exist depending on a person's development. The light addresses us at our level. And it's not limited to say, what we need to, in the first part of your question, it's not a code. These are direct, let's call them, they're instructions that are made up of words that are actually equations, but they also are words. And in these is a succession of interactions that a person takes in order to align with the intention of the upper force. What a patriarch is, and so on, is both a person on the lower level of perception and part of, and a sephirot, a sphere of a spiritual quality interaction with the Creator on a higher level. These two things don't have to annihilate each other to coexist. It's the higher, from the higher force, which is the root level, branches hang down into our level of perception that we feel tangibly as people, history, and so on. But when we climb back to the root level of what's implied in those stories and names, then we see them and experience them as qualities, relationships, connections to higher roots, and ultimately to the Creator.
The next question comes from Jamie Velasquez, Spanish-speaking, on YouTube. Everything we perceive through our five senses is translated into thoughts. Why is it said that thoughts come from the Creator?
Well, where did all the stuff come from? What is the stuff that our senses perceive? Who owns that stuff? You know, the entire environment is the act of the Creator. Whether you think that it's that thoughts come from sensors, which, by the way, they don't actually, or we think of as it coming from the Creator. Both of them, how do I can see this, but I'm looking for how to say it. You experience something, but you don't just experience it, you interpret it. You give it its meaning, you say whether it's good or bad, and you are measuring that by an inner quality that is painting that thing according to your inner state. And there is a program that's running our perception that is connected to the egoistic response. So it deals with separation, separate phenomena, separate sense organs, and judgments related to self-preservation and self-satisfaction. So those are the thoughts that evolve, that spring out of that type of a desire. But ultimately, that's all part of our the evolution of us through this, through our development that was intended for us in our existence. And every bit of that comes from the Creator. And every thought and every reaction that we have is in service either of the ego or of the desire to bestow. And it's placed in front of us according to our desires. It's the desires that are placed in front of us. That desire erects a thought, an operating system by which to satisfy the desire. Thoughts don't precede desires. Desires precede thoughts. And that chain of desire is implanted in us by the Creator, or you can say by nature, as the chain that brings us through the entire process back to that higher state.
Tony Bess Dekai is asking, or saying, hi.
Hi.
My everyday life is designed to give me all the opportunities to correct myself, right? Tikkun. I mean, correct my soul to expand the point in my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it's for. That's what each day and all the events are really for. We just have to be able to put on the right glasses to be able to see that process happening, and we need the right, I don't know what to call it, training, education, something, to be able to know how to turn our experience into that evolution. But there's nothing else that happens but that. Go ahead.
And there's nothing else that happens at 2:00, but a live Zoom session with Tony. Excuse me. We did get a few minute late start, so I wanted viewers to have the opportunity, if they would like to join for the second hour. There's a live Q&A session after this Kabbalah Explained Simply session each week. We have 1 hour live Q&A session on Zoom at KabU, where you can ask any questions you want Kabbalah's answer to and have them answered live. Tony will be there right after this session to answer them, so I hope you'll join. The links will be dropped in the chat, and you can click on Zoom. If you're not a KabU member, after clicking on the Zoom sign up for a free trial, then click Zoom again, and we'll see you there. So if you still have questions, this is a great opportunity to get them answered in the next hour. The next question is from a YouTube viewer, Gnosis Now. Hello, Tony. Does intense study and understanding of the tree of life by itself develop the necessary perception of reality?
Gnosis? No. There's no way to understand anything about the tree outside of the right environment and without preliminary guidance on it, because the context will be inaccurate. One needs to receive guidance as to what the tree is, what a sephira is, what a path is, what it's for, and what its relationship is in a person's inner life, and that it is only a representation of a process. And without that, studying it alone will distort one's understanding, and you get into all kinds of imaginings, which is what has happened over the centuries when people have tried to do this. They've developed all types of streams or so-called schools of Kabbalah based on completely wrong perception and based in the wrong principle. So no, you need to study it in the context of a larger study of the overall science and goal of that science in order for it to be useful. And by the way, it's not all that useful. It's the stuff that people learn about the work of the heart that is the most useful and most important and allows one to understand the tree and to hear what's actually written in Zohar. Mary?
Tony, the next question comes from John Colvard. Great that you're here, John. Happy you joined. Through the thought that Beth shared, along those lines, how does one come to the correct perception of reality? How do you put on the correct glasses? What are the correct glasses?
Well, what I meant in answering Bess was to apply a methodology. That's what the glasses are. We're not just going with our initial reaction to an event. We are discerning what it means to me. What do I want out of the event? What is being required of me in terms of changing the reason I'm doing something in regard to this challenge? And that means one has to learn about the goal and the method. Those are the glasses that allow a person to make use of the events of life in the way that they were intended to be used as a help to grow. I mean, there's all kinds of growing. You can just become a nicer person or a wiser person psychologically. Oh, I can handle this person, or I know how to calm this down, or maybe I'll settle this person, or that's good. It's an important human skill. But the handling of a situation for spiritual development is, as you know, is another matter.
Tony, Juan Manuel Franzia has another question, Spanish-speaking viewer. Why can't we perceive with our natural senses?
Well, you can perceive, but you're perceiving the projection of the ego. Your natural senses eventually. Look, the thing is that the most important sensor that we have is the heart. The heart is the proof of everything. The heart is the thing that's at the core. It reaches to the highest place because the heart holds the desire that tunes in what is coming from our perceptions, so-called, organs of perception. It's the tuner. And a person can begin to see and feel the love and action of the Creator, of the light, in regards and a relationship with you and with others, and can actually see how the Creator acts with us, even with your senses. But it's the addition of this additional sense, which is really the heart, which puts that in the context in which we see the relationship. We understand the process. We know in this relationship what the Creator or what nature wants from us, and we want to respond and give that. So what my eyes and what my ears and my fingers say to me will be telling me about the Creator's love for me and for the world, and I will be using those to do that expression towards the force that's bringing all of this sensation to me.
The next question is from Hamid. Hello. If everything outside of me is the Creator, does punishing bad people, the ones who separate us, with a good intention, is that still in line with Kabbalah? Thank you.
Punishing the ones who separate us with a good intention, they have the good intention? Oh no, punishing them with a good intention, for the sake of a good intention. Yeah, I think that's what it means. Oh, it's not up to us to punish anybody. The only line is to protect. It's separation is death. you know. So you want to make moves that that don't allow a person to influence us towards separation. And if it goes as far as even violence, then you have to take action. You cannot allow yourself not to fulfill the thing for which you were born. There's a covenant there, and we're not supposed to be pushed away by these things that seem to scare us, frighten us, and separate us. They're not stronger than the force of unity that is guiding everything towards its complete fulfillment. And we need to align with it and do whatever it appears in our present state is necessary to act on behalf of the force of unity and connection and the love of friends, and not to be to fall into fear about it, and not to be frozen and unwilling to act when you know why you're living and for whose sake you're living. Then it's not a punishment if you're taking that action in order to fulfill what's necessary. But it takes scrutiny. I mean, you can't just... It takes scrutiny. All in all, though, we are being guided, and we are, in general, all of humanity is being asked to make these kinds of choices. To, whether you understand it on the physical level and you're seeing it in terms of wars, or political and all that, it's the same question. The question is love over hatred, being constructive for the well-being of the whole, stop doing things that separate and pit people against each other, have a higher ideal that can be shared by all people, follow that ideal, and allow and ask for the help of the upper force to bring us to completion, and stop being so smart that we think we know what the end is and how to get there. We don't. We want to be part of that wisdom that is guiding everything. We don't demand that it follow our supposed wisdom. So if we do an act in protection of my friends for that ideal, it's not a punishment. I think we'll go another minute or two just to do the complete hour.
Okay, sure, Tony. There's a viewer that still has questions about altruism.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what does it mean having altruistic desire? Kabbalah talks about nothing from the material world, and I was wondering if altruistic intention means purely to give pleasure to the Creator. And this question comes from Evie.
It does mean that ultimately, but we don't have a direct line to that. Our connection, sincere connection to the Creator that you could actually call altruistic, can only be achieved through the relationship with others. It can only be achieved by love of friends, love of people. That's the door to the bestowal to the Creator. That's the place where we learn it. That's the place where it occurs. And the end of that, in the end of that, we realize, and this is like a higher state, that what we're really interacting with is the Creator. Because the Creator is whole, we need to be whole. How does a shattered creature become whole? By loving and connecting with all of the creature. And then we're bound to that force. And being bound and having a relationship is all about that transfer, that giving. And that's it. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. And I have a few announcements, if you can hang in here for a few minutes. First, I want to share a few more locations the viewers sent in: Chile, Mexico, Guatemala, Quebec, North Carolina, Montreal, Santa Monica, California, and Mexico. So thank you for sharing those. Just a few announcements. You can join KabU. If you're not already a KabU member, then we invite you to join. You can see the links in the chat. And you'll gain access to several Kabbalah courses from beginners to advanced. Join the world's largest online Kabbalah community. The ability to ask senior instructors questions in the student forums anytime you want, by the way, and access to a KabU exclusive weekly newsletter. Also, you get access to the next Kabbalah Revealed course with Tony that starts on August 31st. You can also support KabU if you find our content valuable to you and you'd like to support KabU. You can do that in one of two ways. You can become a KabU member and you get access to all the KabU courses. You'll be in an amazing environment, a thriving community of like-minded spiritual seekers, video-on-demand, exclusive weekly live events, and much more. Or you can make a donation, and those are greatly appreciated. It supports all of our live events and maintaining our services. You can also you can sign up to join the live Q&A session that follows immediately after we sign off from this broadcast. And you will see the links in the chat. So great to be with you, Tony. Again, thank you for your questions and thank you for patience while we joined a few minutes late. Thank you.